Hello everyone, it's Pixel again, and here is part 3 of Ziggy's backstory, and I would just like to say that I'm sorry for the short video, part 2, like I had to deal with the memory card, and so, I had help, so that's why I kind of had to cut the video short, but yeah, I really am sorry that I had to do that, but here we go. Enough of my rambling. Part 3. Now, as I mentioned before, Ziggy went on a field trip with her classmates to another planet, and actually the reason why she even went off on her own is because Red and Purple were going on their own, and of course, basically they kind of teased her that she was scared and that they had to stay with their group. And Red was like, "What, you scared?" And of course Ziggy took that as a challenge, and she basically, and that's how, well, you'll have to watch part 2 if you want to know what I'm talking about, but yeah, that's kind of what led up to her. Like, because at one point she actually gets separated from Red, Purple, and Zim. But yeah, so now we're at somewhere in Ziggy's elite years, along with Zim, and it's actually revealed that in the trial episode that Ziggy is actually served under Miyuki, and basically during Ziggy had she looked up to tallest Miyuki, and as did Red and Purple and even Zim, since even though we didn't get to see much of Miyuki in this series, or, well, actually not at all, but at the same time, I think it was nice that we at least got a little bit of what she was like in the reading of the trial. But yeah, we're now in the time of Miyuki's reign, where she's basically now crowned tallest. And yeah, basically there's actually like this nice scene where Purple asks with Red and Zim, like, in the cafeteria, and like Red puts him and Zim's initials on the knife, and of course they're pretending to be tossed over the other irkens, and of course Ziggy just smiles at this, and of course Purple asks, "Why are you smiling?" And she's like, "Well, it's been a while since I last saw Zim this happy." And also, so yeah. And also during this time, now that they're elites but they're still in training, Ziggy actually took up a class that involved taking care of Smeets. And basically Miyuki said that it would be good for her, and that she looked like the type that was good with kids, So yeah, and it's revealed that Ziggy is surprisingly good with them. And this actually lead up, and of course the fact that she worked in Smeat care, and this led up to an event where a virus, well, more of a sickness broke out among the Smeets, and of course the doctors ran out of medicine, and of course Ziggy asked at one point when they were going to get the medicine now. But that's actually a story for another time. So, now, I should have put a disclaimer. Now, this part actually, gets dark, like, kinda dark. So your discretion is advised. Basically, at one point, Zim, Ziggy, and Purple, and Red, they actually wound up getting kidnapped while they were when they were finishing up a training course, and went their separate ways. Back to their, I don't know, homes or homerooms. They basically were kidnapped, and when Ziggy came to, she found that she was in some kind of glass cell, along with Zim across from her, Red next to her, and Purple is in one across from Red. And of course, this is actually where we get the introduction of a villain who I made, that I kind of made at one point when I was like developing Ziggy's backstory. We meet Docter Jupiter. Now, Docter Jupiter isn't actually his real name. I haven't actually gave him one yet, but yeah. He does go by Docter Jupiter. Now, and of course, Ziggy actually wants to know who he is, and of course she demands to know what's happening and why they're chained up to the floor. And of course, there's actually been rumors of young Smeets and even some newborn Smeets going missing. But yeah, and so yeah, the four of them get captured, and they basically Jupiter explains that he is actually been conducting illegal experiments by Irken standards on young Smeets, which resulted in them either getting horribly mutated, them going insane and being turned into vicious monsters, or they ended up straight up dying. So yeah, he's really not a good person. Like, he is not nice at all. He basically sees any living life form as a test subject to use and put away and throw away when it's failed. And Ziggy has actually known about the rumors along with Red, but Red kind of didn't believe them at the time, but now that it's on full display, he really does believe. So yeah, he basically states, and of course when asked why he decided to kidnap them, is because that, given the fact that Red and Purple are a bit taller than most Irkens in their elite years, And the fact that Ziggy has shown promise when it comes to spears, and as well as knives and weapons. And the fact that Ziggy is also a bookworm, and that she's shown great training and is kind of good at science. She's not perfect in science, and she's still in training with combat. And the fact that, and of course the reason why he took Zim is because even though Zim is overzealous and arrogant and egotistical, Doctor Jupiter does think that maybe he can, like, mold this one into being his puppet, as well as he thinks with Ziggy, given the fact that she too is still young. And of course and the same kind of goes with Red and Purple, although he is, like, thinking about further ideas and further experiments on Red and Purple, either to make sure. So yeah, and it's also revealed that Doctor Jupiter has committed forms of treason in the past, and sorry about that. Someone came in, but yeah, given the fact that he was performing illegal experiments, he actually plans to take down Miyuki and her successor, Spork. And given the fact, at this point, I think Red and Purple are either considered being trained to become the new tallest, or are expected to become them. So yeah, that's kind of why that's kind of the reason why. And I actually will, like, give a bit of history on Dr. Jupiter's relationship with Ziggy and Talist's Spork and Miyuki, because and basically he begins, like, a series of traumatic events happen to all four of them, particularly Ziggy, because she's the one who she either will, whenever he comes to experiment on them or to make them fight dangerous creatures, he basically will end up with, sorry about that. Basically, whenever he did, Ziggy would offer herself instead to be tested on, and sometimes it worked, and basically he, of course, didn't give in to her pleas or her sacrifices, or her sacrificing herself to be a guinea pig. And of course, and at one point when Ziggy was, at one point she has a kind of conversation with Doctor Jupiter, and he's holding a baby Smeet in his hands, and after a bit of back and forth as to why he's doing this, he begins to kill the little Smeet right in front of her. So, yeah, that's a traumatizing event for Ziggy, and that's why and this actually kind of leads up as to why she's overprotective of her allies and her friends. because she basically was helpless, because Jupiter also put electric shock collars on them to keep them in line. So when Ziggy tried to help the babies meet, she ended up getting zapped. And even though she fought through the shocks and tried to stop Jupiter, he overpowered her, and he ended up killing the baby Smeet. And of course, she basically feels guilty for that. She basically feels like utterly legitimate guilt for that, because she felt like she could have done more. She could have been stronger. She could have stopped it, but it happened anyway, and she doesn't understand why this happened. So yeah, after that, she basically stopped talking. Like, when she was brought back to her cell, she stopped talking, even though Red and Purple and Zim tried to coax her into talking, but of course she said that she didn't want to talk about it, and of course one day came where he took all 4 of them and began to basically do tests on them, testing their strength, getting blood tests from them, as well as injecting them with something that's revealed that's actually been making them kind of sick. And basically of course it's revealed that he plans to tamper with their packs, maybe even dismantle and see if he can revive them. And of course Ziggy reveals that he isn't authorized to tamper with packs, because unless if the pack is severely damaged, then they will get somebody to try and fix it. But of course they have to be, a professional and authorized and have a license in that and know what they're doing. So yeah, and of course, but if they're not, then that's considered very illegal in Irken society. Well, at least it's kind of a headcanon I have, but yeah. And of course, this is actually where we get introduced to some other characters. Basically, they were Ziggy's crew and, well, actually, some friends that Ziggy knew, and I do plan on doing a video on them as well. So yeah, but thankfully an Irken guard actually manages to find out about this, and of course they all manage to make, so yeah, Talis, Miyuki, and I think Spork, I don't know if it was ever confirmed that Spork was, well, I should say that Spork is kinda Talis, I don't know, but yeah, I'll explain more, but I think you all I'll explain more as to what's going on, because this is actually going to be involved with something else later, anywho, back to the story at hand. Sorry for my rambling, I got distracted, but so yeah, Docter Jupiter gets found out and arrested, and Ziggy actually... So yeah, Zim, Ziggy, Red, and Purple all get rescued along with some other kidnapped Smeets and elites. And of course, basically, Docter Jupiter is actually then banished from Irk and sent to be imprisoned. And of course, Miyuki and the Control Brains declare that he has no chance of ever getting out of prison. And they also arrest and put on trial other rogue scientist irkens that were also doing this, and so yeah, this event. So yeah, Ziggy, she kind of has, after seeing the baby Smeet get killed and she was helpless to stop it, is, you know, like, filters in with her protective nature of Violet, and along with sometimes Zim and Gur, as well as another Irken that I will talk about at one point. But yeah, so yeah, Ziggy basically still has, like, nightmares about what happened. Like, she kind of becomes a bit, like, more hostile, and she's more, like, nervous about things. Like, and of course, she basically doesn't leave her dorm room anymore, or leave her home, or she barely leaves it. So yeah, she does. So yeah, it's revealed that Ziggy is in. So yeah, and of course, since this was too much to deal with, she started repressing it. She basically repressed it because she didn't want to be haunted by it anymore. She wanted to move on, and basically she wanted things to go back to how they used to be. So yeah, sorry if that was kind of dark, but that was, like, the intent on Ziggy's backstory. And at one point, and actually during the whole blob incident with Miyuki, since I don't think Miyuki knew Zim that well, but, like, when he unleashed that energy-absorbing blob thing, and it basically swallowed Miyuki, Ziggy, of course, freaked out, and of course, she rushed into action with her pack leg and basically tried to kill the creature. She did manage to, like, injure its stomach. Like, she manages to get another pack leg, and she, like, digs into it and slashes the skin. And she even manages to cut off one of the blob's limbs. And yeah, but of course it ended up getting away, and Ziggy actually was thrown into some kind of button. I'll explain what that, and it kind of, it kind of blasted off a chunk of the blob, but it reformed. So yeah, the blob. And of course, Ziggy, like, So yeah, that's kind of Ziggy's involvement in, like, this. And this is part of Ziggy's backstory. Like I said, and, well, obviously. The thing is, Ziggy is actually part of an Irken conspiracy, or at least it's implied that she was involved with one. Because, well, and I'll be honest here, I will hold on to the headcanon that Spork and Miyuki are still alive. Either the blob threw them up, or it was some kind of portal, or they were the blob put them in suspended animation. Because, look, I'll be honest, I will hang on to that, and I will go down with that idea till I will go down with that idea. I'm not lying. I really will. Because, frankly, I don't think it's confirmed that they ever found the bodies. So there could be a possibility that they're still alive and out there living their own lives now. Now that they have 2 new Talists, they probably didn't feel the need to return to Urk. So, yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of something that was kind of going to be hinted at throughout the series. Like, Ziggy was part of this conspiracy, or she was a prime suspect in it. And also, another thing about Ziggy is that during the course of her life and in moments in her backstory, is that she was actually rumored to be a defective, but she never got a trial because given the fact that she sometimes disobeyed the rules, she went off on her own. She was a wild child. She was adventurous. And with the blob incident of Spork and Miyuki, she basically kind of rushed in without thinking. Because even though she didn't manage to cut open the blob's stomach or anything like that, she did manage to at least scar it, as well as damaging its organs, revealed later, because let's face it, those pack legs are really sharp looking, and yeah. So, yeah, that, and the fact that she managed this time to cut off a tentacle from the blob monster. And also, one thing I forgot to mention is that during their rescue, they actually met during their rescue and in the time that they were being held captive. And also another event in their elite years happened that plays in with Ziggy's relationship with Zim, as well as her relationship with Red and Purple, but like I said, that's kind of a story for another time. So, yeah, that's why Ziggy is connected to this conspiracy, and given the fact that she worked under Miyuki's reign, she was, of course, suspected of, and whether or not she was hiding something. And even though it's revealed that Ziggy was in fact hiding something, like throughout the series there was something like Ziggy knew something that Zim didn't know, Dib didn't know, or Gaz or Gur or even Violet didn't know, and possibly not even Red and Purple knew. Possibly, actually it's a possibility that she knows something that the others don't know. whether or not it's connected to the traumatic event in her past, as well as something else that really, like, stuck with her. Something, and of course, given the fact that she repressed it, it would make sense that she wouldn't remember it. Because, well, she's actually choosing not to remember, so she's, in a sense, in denial. But yeah. So yeah. And of course, actually at this, and of course when the blob thing happened, she kind of stopped. Like, she actually questioned the fact if Miyuki was really dead, because she asks Lardnar if they found the body, and he actually doesn't know if they found the body, and an Irken guard reveals that they didn't find a body, nor Miyuki's pack. So yeah, they just found a blood trail. And also I also kind of get the idea that the energy absorbing blob was an experiment of Zim's that went wrong, because frankly, I personally think that it wasn't supposed to get that big. Maybe like the size of a small animal, sure, but not like big. So yeah. This is part 3 of Ziggy's backstory. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!